The Chicago Bulls finally do something in signing Jalen Smith to a 3-year deal. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We're also going to talk about the Warriors turning down a Zach LaVine trade and what does his market really look like. And Andre Drummond is officially leaving, which now it's not so bad that we signed a new center. We're going to get into all and more right after this.
You are Locked On Bulls, your daily Chicago Bulls podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for tuning in to Locked On Bulls, member of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day. That's Pat the Designer, host and creator of the Windy City Breeze, and host of the Chicago Bears podcast over at ESPN 1000. I'm Haize, host and creator of Chicago Bulls Central and Chicago Bears Central YouTube pages and podcasts. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as playoffs wind down. The sports stop sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Pat, the Bulls made a signing, bro. I didn't expect it this early. I'm not even going to lie to you. They made a signing still technically within the first 24 hours of free agency, but we'll label it as day 2 of free agency, which day 1 was kind of boring. But the Bulls signed. They find Jalen Smith to a 3-year, $27 million deal, if I'm not mistaken. That's an average of $9 million per. Jalen Smith, a player who hasn't played a whole hell of a lot of minutes, right? So the thing with Jalen Smith is that he's very productive, not kind of as productive on the boards as what Andre Drummond is, but he's very similar in that case of you get him minutes, he finds a way to produce no matter what it is. But the one season that he did, or the one partial season when he initially got traded to the Indiana Pacers, that he played over 20 minutes, he averaged 13 points per game, 7.5 rebounds per game, over a block per game on 53% shooting and 37% shooting from 3. How you feeling about the acquisition, Pat?
I think this is good. This is the one acquisition that when I saw this young man in Indiana part ways, right, that I was like, that's a guy I would love for the Chicago Bulls to go get, because still very young, ton of upside on this young man. Hasn't really gotten a chance to start on that team a ton, right? Why? Because there's people ahead of them that are just better. Let's be real. Yeah. If I got Pascal Siakam, I got Miles Turner, I got they brought in Obi Toppin and threw him out there a little bit, right? Like if I've got those guys,
DeAndre Ayton, even when he was on the Spurs, was ahead of him.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like if I've got those guys on the team who I look at and I'm like, listen, like I know why he's not starting, but he's still giving you good production when he's coming off the bench. You see that production take a serious uptick when he actually gets more minutes and more opportunity to go out there. What can he do if you go out there and give him a 28 minutes, right? Or God forbid we end up making him our starting center. I don't know if I'm ready to commit to that just yet, but we'll see what a Vooch trade ends up being, because he's kind of the tallest dude on the team right now, 6'10". If Vooch ends up leaving, he's the biggest guy you got. He's probably your starting center right now. But I think that this, to me, is a move where you commit to the youth movement. You still see a ton of upside. You still see a young man who not only is he able to put up more points, but it's not like he's just throwing the basketball up there. Last season, 59% from the field, 42% from the three-point line. Now, didn't take a ton of threes when he took almost 4 3-pointers a game that season that Haize was talking about, where he got traded from Phoenix to Indiana. He shot about 4 threes a game, shot at a 37% clip. So a guy that can stretch the floor as well. I think that's really what you're looking for. Not a guy, and again, not a shooting big man, but a big man that can shoot. And if you know how to play him the right way, he's somebody that can give you a ton of impact. I think this is a really good signing for the Chicago Bulls, and I'm almost surprised that they made it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised that they made it. So what this does, and we got to talk about the implications of this outside of, of course, replacing Vooch. This now means that the Bulls are moving on from either Zach or DeMar. There's no other way around it. Yeah. They had they're signing with part of their mid-level exception, but they could not use that mid-level exception if they kept either one of those guys. After signing Patrick Williams, the Chicago Bulls were $22 million beneath the luxury tax, but over the salary cap. They can't use all of that. The only way that they could sign players was either using the mid-level exception or using the biannual exception, which we do have both of. But this signing indicates that for us to stay under the luxury tax, either you're trading Zach and only taking back portion of his salary, or DeMar DeRozan is walking. And I think that's something as well that we need to take away from the implications of the signing.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think the That is the perfect way to frame this conversation, because it is another thing, like I said, that commits to the young guys that are on this team. Now, right, there's somebody who's not going to be taking shots away from Kobe White, Ayo Dosunmu, Patrick Williams, whoever you want to talk about, right? And I also think, right, committing a young big that is mobile to your point guard who you just brought in Josh Giddey, that pick and roll, to me, I can't wait to see what that looks like, because Jalen Smith absolutely can go up there and get it. Like, I think that's something as far as a dynamic where, okay, how am I going to give my team pieces that actually fit? How am I going to give my team pieces that make them better? To me, even if it's something small, even if it is a 24-minute roll off of the bench and we do end up keeping Vooch or whatever it is, the fact that you got a mobile big out here that can run with Kobe White, that can run with Vooch, or I'm sorry, that can run with Josh Giddey, that can run with Ayo Dosunmu, whoever the ball handler is there. I think that just improves their game. It impacts how much they'll be able to facilitate the ball, and it impacts how quickly this Bulls team will be able to get out and get on the run.
Yeah, for sure. This does again another signal that the Bulls are going younger, 20 years old, in the league 4 years. But you know what else this signals, Pat? Something that me and you've been complaining about. ESPN has Jalen Smith listed as 6'9", 215 pounds. You know how I know this has not been updated since he actually played in Maryland in college?
Why?
At the draft combine, before he was drafted, he was measured at 6'10", 225 pounds.
So he's 225. So I don't know again. I don't know. What is it? What?
ESPN literally, if you play high school basketball in the United States of America, ESPN puts those numbers there and they will never update them, bro.
Well, listen. Basketball Reference is the same thing.
They may be lazy too.
Basketball Reference has him 6'10", 215. Like I haven't.
Well, at least they have his right height. ESPN doesn't even have the right height.
That's true. This is true. I haven't seen him ESPN, 225.
You remember when Paul George grew from like 6'5" to 6'7" over that summer? True. He was listed as 6'5" for 4 years after we all knew he grew.
Hey, bro, I'll bet you they still haven't updated Luol Deng's height. Remember Luol Deng had that growth spurt when he was with the Bulls?
Oh, yeah. He grew from 6'7" to 6'9"?
Yeah, man came back and they were like, hey, bro, you get taller, bro? What the... What are we doing here?
They don't even list Luol Deng's height anymore, ESPN. They just, once you retire, they're like, we're not even going to keep it updated. Don't worry about it.
Dysfunctional said, we're men, 1 inch matters.
Hey, that's crazy.
Hey, if we're being real, we do argue over the inches in sports quite a bit. Like, how close are you to a first down? How tall somebody is? Like,
that's a fact. That's
inches
hilarious.
matter. Listen, it is what it is. No, that's you know hilarious. What? I think that that is a great.
That is
point.
Funny. That is crazy. That's
once again, we're sitting here trying to fit. We have 2 players on our team. We don't know what their actual weight is, bro. That's kind of nuts, bro.
And cleaning the glass, which I do like to use cleaning the glass a lot. That's where I get a lot of my advanced analytics. Do have him as 6'10", 220 pounds. It's different numbers everywhere, bro.
I'll take 220. He looks a little bit bigger than he looks. Nah, he don't look much bigger. He looks a little bit bigger than when he came in. His nickname is Sticks, bro. Like he is a slimmer dude, but I think that this is not a bad signing by the Chicago Bulls. I've seen some people kind of go, this is just a throwaway signing. You know, we don't need this. This is just another. Like, I understand that we're in a very pessimistic point in life, but like, this is a good move by the Bulls. I think this is a good signing. I think this is one that actually puts the Bulls, the conversation on we're going to change the core around feels real now. Yeah. It doesn't feel like really it's just something else that you said at the end of the season.
Yeah. And I mean, credit to AK. We talked about it. He changed the coaching staff. And at the time, me and you were saying, well, he can't change the roster. The only thing he can change is his coaching staff. Let's see what happens when he actually can change the roster. And since he's been able to, we've gotten change after change for the most part. Like, so it seems like AK really is changing it. We still don't know what level they're actually trying to compete at, if like keeping the 2025 pick is necessarily a focus. Yeah. But at least the Bulls are getting younger and more athletic 8 years after Gar Forman said.
We're finally getting there. Younger and more athletic. Here we go.
It only took 8 years, almost a decade, bro. I was your age the last time that they said we were going younger, more athletic.
How old are you?
37.
Dang, you really were my age. That's
nice. I really was. Like, yeah.
Forgetting how much of a gap there is between us, dog.
We talk all the time, and we're like the same person. We have similar backstories and everything. It's like It is what it is.
It is what it is, man. But no, a good sign about the Bulls. I think that he fits in with what the team wants to do, and I hope that this isn't the final move of the offseason. I hope we see more moves to come.
It would be AK. Well, AK. So now with this signing, the Bulls roster stands at 14 players. That's including the non-guaranteed deal of Ernolot Batum. So technically, we have one open roster spot. Of course, that could change with the Zach LaVine trade or DeMar DeRozan walking, but that's what we have right now.
Now, I will say this, Jalen Smith, I hope that you come here and you produce and you're phenomenal. But if you ever have a bad game, just know that Locked On Bulls will be here to fry you, because you do always look like you're trying.
It's easily friable, bro.
Bro, he looked like he always trying to sneak a fart out. You know, when you're trying to like.
No, he looks like a snitch. Like, you know, he told on everybody in school. Mrs. Smith, they were out there smoking. Like, you just know he did, bro, every time.
Yeah, I hope you ball out, my boy, but we will be here to fry you.
We will be here to fry you. AK is signed. Is he putting together the all friable roster? Because Josh Giddey is an easy friable person as well.
Josh Giddey, friable. Leroy Carter, friable.
Friable. Manus Busilis, listen, I love his game. He's a very friable person as well.
Bro, there's some people you can bake on this team for sure, dog. And it's not even difficult.
It's not difficult. You ain't even got to try.
Next up, mouth still open, friable.
Next up, we're going to be talking about somebody who the Bulls are trying to trade, Zach LaVine, but it seems like they can't get that even if they did try. But before we get into that, we're going to be talking about another message from one of our sponsors, and that is FanDuel. I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs have winded down, we get fewer games and the sports aren't sportsing like we want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. And all I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball.
Betting anytime you in the mood, you a freaky better, though. That's not. That's crazy. Like,
instead of the fan, it's FAB.
You know, I could go up here and talk to this girl, but you know what I'm in the mood for?
I'm a bet
real quick.
Let me find out some of y'all leaving your ladies in the room sleeping by themselves. Y'all in there putting in bets late at night. Like, what we doing?
Looking at your parlays.
It's crazy. Oh, I got to get this parlay in real quick. All right, man. What are we doing? Well, Pat, another saga in the Zach LaVine trade nonsense, bro. So apparently before free agency officially opened, the Chicago Bulls offered Zach LaVine in exchange for a package built around Chris Paul. Some have said Wiggins was a part of it. Some say Wiggins wasn't. But some type of deal worked around that. The Golden State Warriors looked at that and said, hey, no, matter of fact, don't even worry about it because we're waiving Chris Paul instead of trading for Zach LaVine. How do you feel about that, Pat?
Listen, it's damning, bro. We heard from multiple people, right? We heard from Chris Haize the other day. Why do everybody always say Chris B. Haize, by the way? I know he's got it on the Twitter, but are we doing the B for Chris Haize? I'm just calling him Chris Haize. But
I'll tell you one thing about Chris Haize. Him and Jalen Smith need the same tub of Carmex, bro, because they both be walking around here full ash, bro. But I'm sorry, keep it going, man.
That was nuts, bro. Apparently, the Bulls offered Zach LaVine to the Warriors, like you said, for a package that includes Andrew Wiggins. But what I thought was interesting was this report from is this the same one? Oh, never mind. We also got the report from who? Now I can't think of his name. Friggin'. That Zach LaVine was included with a first-round pick, and the Bulls still couldn't be able to go out there.
Bob Myers? Is that what it is?
No, it wasn't Bob Myers.
Bobby Marks.
Bobby Marks. I couldn't get Bobby Marks out there. We also heard from Bobby Marks that the Bulls were including a first-round pick and still could not move Zach LaVine. Now, this is a twofold thing for me, right? Number one, I would hope that the first-round pick we're talking about is the Portland first-round pick. It's not including draft capital out there, boys. We need draft capital moving forward. We're going forward with this youth movement, right? It would help if we could add some youth, right? So let's not go giving away draft capital. On top of that, it's very damning that you hear that report, you hear this report where one of the players, we know they want to move Andrew Wiggins because of the fall off he had last season, and you literally waived Chris Paul and you didn't want to bring in Zach LaVine. That leads me to question, okay, what is it that we don't know that teams are looking to stay away from? Is it because he's been injury prone? Is it because of the contract? Which at this point, with the contracts out there, I have a tough time thinking it's just because of the contract. Like I struggle to think that somebody making 40 M's who can be an efficient scorer and you're bringing in to make your second or third option, that you're sitting there going, oh, I'm blown away by this money. Like to me, that just doesn't make sense for how the modern CBA is. I do wonder if it is the fact that when you look at Zach LaVine and you look at his career, and I understand hasn't been on great teams and stuff like that, but hasn't impacted winning almost at all. He is the worst winning percentage of any player to play over 500 games in the NBA, 37.2. And I wonder if teams are just looking at him and saying, listen, for $40 million, you impact nothing winning wise.
It's
and
the
I don't
perfect
want
combination. Injury history, which has been overblown some, but injury history is there. You can't deny it, right? The contract is not as manageable as what you would like. It's not ridiculous. We've seen way more ridiculous contracts.
There's nutty contracts out there.
Yeah. And then on top of that, like you said, it's the fact that it would have been different if Zach LaVine was one of those players where even when he was on a bad team, you looked at Zach and you were like, hey, man, this dude is good. Zach LaVine put up some big numbers. Don't get me wrong. He's a flawless scorer. Me and you talked about it. If Zach LaVine is your number 2, and if you can make him your number 3 option, you got a championship level team. But the fact is if there's a Venn diagram, the fact that all those things overlap perfectly is why teams are looking at Zach LaVine like, you know what? I don't even know if I'm going to be able to do it for real.
And I mean, at this point, it's literally like I wonder, this has to humble Zach a little bit, dog. This has to bring you back down to earth a little bit because, and not to say that Zach has been bad here, not to say he's been a bad teammate. I think that Zach has been a perfect professional. I think he's going through this process. I think it just hasn't worked out here with the team that has been put together here. That's how things work sometimes. But to see a player who literally the league just goes, no, we don't want you. And the team that you're on going, we don't want you. That's tough, dog. Like, and I think that it's very damning of the type of player that Zach LaVine, that the league may view Zach LaVine as. I don't think it's the type of player that he is, but I do wonder if people just view him as a guy who, when you bring him to your team, he doesn't elevate your team, he doesn't impact winning, and the shots that he actually takes away from your team being successful.
I mean, that could very well be the case, man. And I have been saying for the last week or so over on Central that I feel like if Zach LaVine is moved, it's not going to be to the second wave of free agency, meaning everybody, you has to be a team that struck out on their first and second, maybe even the third option. And then they're looking at it and saying, we got a little cap space. We got 3 guys that we don't really want on the roster that equal up about close enough to Zach LaVine's contract. Let's just go ahead and get it done. Let's see what Zach brings.
That's the question. Aren't we there? PG was the prize.
Yeah, the prize, but that's why I said maybe even third option. Yes, PG was the prize. But as we saw for example, the Orlando Magic, I'm sure that if they could have got PG, they would have. They got KCP, somebody who helps up their offense, but does not take away from what they do defensively. If anything, he may add to it. So, if you look at the teams that were rumored around Zach LaVine, right? The Orlando Magic, they got KCP. Doesn't necessarily mean that they can't get back in on potentially Zach LaVine, but they got KCP. Maybe they look at that and saying that that's enough. The Sacramento Kings, who've been listed for the last couple of weeks as the odds-on favorite, they got Malik Monk. They re-signed Malik Monk. Not to say that he brings what Zach LaVine theoretically could, but they could very well look at that and say, it's close enough. If we really squint, it's close enough.
If we really squint,
it's close enough.
I look hard enough.
And they could very well wait to say, because keep in mind, the Kings have gotten beneath the luxury tax. Right now, if the Kings traded for Zach LaVine, they would still be beneath the luxury tax, and that's a great place to be in. But they could say, you know what? We brought back Monk. Let's see what else we can get. If we want to wait, maybe we revisit it at the trade deadline. Kevin Huerter and Harrison Barnes are still going to get us Zach LaVine as far as matching what we need to match. So we might as well wait and run it back before we make a commitment of 3 more years of Zach LaVine.
I get it. I mean, listen, I understand completely. I just wonder who's the name that you're still waiting on. Right? Like who's the name
Tobias Harris got signed before Zach LaVine.
You know what I mean? Like, who's the name that, like, James Harden is gone, Tobias Harris is gone, Paul George is gone. Those were the big names in free agency, and that tells you where this free agent class is. Like, who are the names that you're waiting for to sign or to trade for? Like, who's out there that's disgruntled? Are they waiting on the Kevin Durant thing to play out? Because the owner already said, listen, F the luxury tax, I'm paying it, which is crazy to say, but shout out to you. But like, who's this move that teams are waiting on?
I just see Clay's still out there. Miles Bridges is still out there. These are all players that, I mean, if you're just looking at it saying we need a scorer, and I know people try to act like Clay is completely washed up, but let's not act like Clay didn't still average 18 points per game on 40% shooting and almost 40% from three. Teams could definitely still convince themselves that Clay theoretically could help them more than Zach, and probably at less money at this point as well. Yeah,
I mean, that's true. I guess there's still some names out there that you'd be interested in. We know the Lakers.
Sadiq Bey's out there.
Well, you also got to think: is it his running mate? Are teams more interested in DeMar DeRozan than anybody else? Right? Like, because that's he's just gonna walk. It's done. Like, he's just walking. We're not signing trade.
I mean, signing trade is still a possibility because you got to look at. A lot of the teams still could, like, if they want to sign DeMar but still maintain an ability to use their mid-level, they could look for that.
I mean, you could.
I'm just saying it's not outside the realm of possibility. I still think what you said is more likely because it were the Chicago Bulls. I'm just offering a different perspective on it. Is all.
Yeah. No, I think this is a bad situation. No matter what you say, Zach LaVine getting his contract, and especially if he has to come back to the Bulls and play for this team, like, this is a bad situation all the way around. Like, I wonder if we get to a point where there's a buyout option that the Bulls look to take, because they're literally begging
buyout LaVine.
Not right now. You can't do it this season at all. You can't do it this season at all.
But I say this is that, like, Jerry, we're literally. You want to do what? You want to do what?
That would be the day. That would be the day. But no, I just think that you're in a situation where nobody in the league wants a guy. You're sitting here trying to give him away. Like, when I heard Andrew Wiggins and Chris Paul, I was like, oh, they're willing to take anything to move on from this, because they were immediately going to waive Chris Paul probably.
Well, that's the thing. I don't think they would have been. I've read conflicting things. I read that for the Warriors to have traded Chris Paul, they would have had to guarantee his contract. So at that point, it would have been a buyout, not a waiving. And we all know, again, Jerry.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. That's tough. I don't know, man. It's a bad situation all the way around. But let's hope that the Bulls find a resolution to it as this free agency class comes together. We do got to talk about Andre Drummond going to the 76ers. Drum, you will be missed.
Did you double press it on purpose?
No, it's the second one in there. You're supposed to have a music ready on it.
That's my fault. I got thrown off when I saw it again.
There's one literally labeled behind the scenes on it. There's one literally labeled no ad.
Oh, listen, I'm not gonna lie to you. It completely threw me off, bro. I was at loss for a second there.
Let's have the music on that mid segment. We just go straight into it.
It is what it is. You know, now listen, we're one of the only Locked On shows that give you guys mid music anyway. A lot of these mugs is born.
Hey, welcome in to Locked On. I ain't gonna say anything. That was about to be
don't do it. Don't you do it, because now we gotta fight. Now we podcasting beefing in the same label. It's crazy.
That's how mugs getting money out here. Shannon Sharp did that for 6 months. He was beefing with everybody.
But Andre Drummond does leave, goes to the 76ers on a 2-year, $10 million deal, if I'm not mistaken. How do you feel about we all appreciated Drum for what it was, for what he was and what he brought to this team. How do you feel about the departure of Andre Drummond?
He will be missed, man. Listen, Andre Drummond was a good part of this Bulls team. Brought us a lot of excitement. I can't wait for the return game. I'm gonna try and get tickets to that one, because
he's cooking Vooch.
If
Vooch is still the starting center, and Andre Drummond comes in, he is, and I'm not even saying that he dislikes Vooch, but he is getting cooks.
Hey, because it's gonna be you. There's no way you should have been starting in front of me for 4 years, or for 2 years.
I mean, look, we saw it here. He did it. He tried to do it when he played against Embiid here. We all know Embiid's better than Drum. Drum is going to try to kill Nikola Vucevic.
Oh yeah. Listen, we already know. Drum's willing to dunk on his own teammates to try and make a play. You think he's not going to try to dunk on Nikola Vucevic, bro? Like, I mean, listen. Kobe White's still confused about that play to this day.
Bro, I watched the replay on that a couple of days ago, and I'm just like, this is the perfect when people was like, hey, how'd you feel about the 2023-24 Chicago Bulls season? I'm just going to show them that picture. That's it.
So how do we get here? But no, I think the Drum was a big part of was a big part of what the Bulls Kobe was so was a big part of what the Bulls were trying to build. I would have loved to see him be a part of that Lonzo team that was actually healthy. I would have loved to see him be with Josh Giddey on this team, and I thought maybe there was a chance that the Bulls try and re-sign him. But when you see that he's able to go out there and get $10 million for 2 years, he didn't make $10 million here. Like, he barely made $5 million here in 2 years. What did he make $5 million?
Yeah, he made a little over 5
2.4. So he made a little bit over $5 million. So like being able to double that in 1 year, like shout out to him. Go get your bag, man, and go out there and win. And now he's on a team that just signed Paul George, so he's gonna have a chance. To me, in the Eastern Conference, if between Embiid's knees and Paul George's knees, if one of those knees can hold up, I think that he can have a chance to make a deep run in the Eastern Conference playoffs and have a chance to compete for a championship this season. Now, whether that happens, that's up to some pretty bad knees out there, but we'll see.
The all bad knee team. Yeah, I mean, listen.
No, that was last year. That was the Clippers. The Clippers were the all bad knee team.
I mean, but Paul George traded one teammate with injury concerns for another one.
That's true. Paul George went through it. Get your money, Paul.
Yeah, get your money, man. Get your money. Compete. It is what it is. I like how the Philadelphia 76ers are trying to build like the Denver East team as far as like if you look at play style, it's like it's going to be real interesting to watch that team play. But they'll be better than the Chicago Bulls, that's for sure. But yeah, shout out to Andre Drummond for getting his bag, man. I got nothing left to say.
Hey, man, I love it. Hey, hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave that 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Follow us on everything at Locked On Bulls. You can follow me on everything at Pat the Designer. Let us know your thoughts on the Chicago Bulls signing Jalen Smith, Zach LaVine having no market, and losing Andre Drummond. Peace.
Yeah, let's see what else today brings for the Chicago Bulls. Maybe, just maybe, we get a DeMar DeRozan decision, and yeah, we'll have that to talk about the next time we come to you guys. You guys can follow me at CEO Haize. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. Locked On Bulls is free and available on every podcasting app and platform of your choice, as well as YouTube. For Pat the Designer, we out here. Peace, y'all.
Peace. Jalen Smith got to know what he looks like, right?
What?
So he got to know what he looks like, right?
That's hilarious.
He got to know he got a Franklin the Turtle face, right?